Hello everyone and welcome back. With this session, we will go through the configuration steps of the high availability. We have two big IP appliances. So I'm on the first one, the management IP 1.1.1 or .111. So we will start the high availability wizard. We click next. We will use network failover because interface 1.3 will be used as a dedicated interface for high availability. Click next. This appliance I have done reset for the configuration, so it is not pre-configured with any IP address. If you look at the VLAN list, no VLANs, no self IPs, interfaces are still default. So no pre-configuration. We will do it with the configuration, the high availability wizard. So we click next. It's asking me now configure the internal network, the inside IP, which we will use 10.0.0.2. I'm gonna use .2, .3. Let's use for the appliance big IP1. So for the big IP1, I'm gonna use .3. For the big IP2, I'm gonna use .2, and floating IP, I'm gonna use .1. So because .1 will be the default gateway of the servers, I'm gonna keep .1 as a floating IP. Use .3 for appliance 1, use .2 for appliance 2. It's up to you, you can use any combination. The interface inside is 1.2, untagged, click add. So in one step, we are configuring VLAN for the internal, we are configuring self IP for the internal, and we are configuring floating IP. Next, external VLAN. We will create a new, we don't have existing. So 192, I'm gonna take 3 for this interface, and the floating IP is 1. Interface 1.1 as an untagged. So now we configured both the internal and the external. Now it's asking me for the HA interface. So I'm gonna say 192.168.11. This is first device, a big IP1. I'm gonna select interface, the third interface, as an untagged. Click next. NTP, we're gonna use a public NTP pool, ae.pool.ntp.org. Next. DNS, I'm gonna use Google DNS. Click add and next. The config sync which interface you want to use for when you do some changes on the first big IP to push the changes and synchronize it with big IP2 or vice versa. So we're gonna use the HA interface. Which interfaces you want to use for big IP to send keep alive to keep checking on each other. We're gonna use the HA and the management. Click next. Mirroring the configuration. We're gonna use the HA to mirror, to mirror the connections, not configuration. Mirroring connection table and persistence table. Both, they can be, by default they are not, but they can be mirrored between both appliances, and this is actually required for production network, because without mirroring the connections, when there is a failover event, users will be disconnected from the application and they need to connect again. So we don't want that. We want users to not feel any changes when the big IP failover happen. So for the connection mirror, we use the HA. You can use another interface. Let's keep it as is for the lab. So we have successfully prepared BigIB1 for the high availability. Is BigIB2 ready? If ready, click next. I would say no. Finish on BigIB1 now. And let's go to BigIB2 now, the .12, the management. Let's run the HA wizard, same as we did on the first. So we're going to use network high availability. The internal is 10.0.0.2. The floating IP is 10.0.0.1. Interface 1.2 untagged, add, and click next. External 192. Subnet mask. Floating IP is .1. Interface 1.1. Untagged. Click add. Next, the HA interface 192.168.11.2. The first one was .1. This is .2. Interface 1.3. Select untagged. Click add. And next. NTP. We have to use same NTP. Next. Same DNS we can use. Click next. Config sync interface, which interface you want to use to synchronize the configuration. We're going to use the HA. Keep alive messages on HA and management. Click next. Connection mirroring and persistence mirroring on the HA interface. Click next. And there we go. On the first appliance, we clicked finished because the second appliance was not ready. Now we are on the second appliance and the first appliance ready. So let's click next. Yes, we want to peer. The peer. So what is the IP address of the peer? 192.168.11.1. We are on the BigIB2. The BigIB1 IP address is .1. Admin, let's type in the password. Retrieve device information. This is the certificate of .1. Yes, we confirm. So click on device certificate matches. So we're going to create a high availability group. Click add device. Now we see that device 2 has become online active, awaiting initial sync. Let's go to device 1, online standby. BigIB1 online standby, awaiting initial synchronization. Now let's go back to the 2, which is the active. At the moment, there are no configuration. We have reset this device to default factory. So let's at least create one node here. Node 1, our servers, 81, click finish. So we have node 1 on BigIB2, which is the active. So you see, changes pending. There has been a changes on BigIB on the active device. It's not synchronized to the second device. So we go to the second one, the standby one. If we check the nodes, nothing synchronized yet. So let's go to the BigIB2, the active one. Click on changes pending. It will take us to the page to do the synchronization. Now, because the BigIB2 now is the active one, I will select BigIB2 push the configuration of BigIB2 to other devices. Click sync. It will take 1 or 2 minutes and the devices, they will sync. And here it will change to be synced. As I said, it's going to take 1 or 2 minutes maximum. So as you can see, now it is in sync. BigIP2 is online active and it is in sync with the standby device, which is currently the BigIP1 is standby. If we go to BigIP1, you see that the node is there. Let's create another node. Let's go to local traffic, node list, create node 2, click finish. Now we have two nodes here. You see changes pending. It has changed from in sync to changes pending. Now by default, the synchronization, the configuration synchronization is a manual process. So you have to click on the changes pending, select BigIP2 where we have done the changes and push the configuration. Click sync. This is how you push the configuration to the other devices. Now it is in sync. If I go to BigIP1, refresh the page, now we have two nodes. So by default, the configuration synchronization is manual. To make it auto, go to device group, click on the group that has been created and select automatic sync. Click update. Now let's go back to nodes, create the third node. IP address .23, click finish. If we go to the BigIP2, give it a sec, there you go. It is now automatic. So you configure the automatic synchronization from device groups. Click on the group that has been created and select the automatic sync, incremental sync. Now, if we want to change the active device, now BigIP2 is the active, BigIP1 is the standby. If you want to change, you can click on device management devices. Self means we are on BigIP1. Here you can say force offline, you can say force standby, but because this is already standby, we have to go on the primary devices, BigIP2, we are on BigIP2, which is the active. Click on device name, click force standby. Force this device to standby, okay. Now you can see that BigIP2 is online standby. Go to BigIP1, online active. Under this device management devices, click on the device name. You can change the config sync interface if you want to change it. Currently, any configuration that we change on BigIP1, it will be pushed to BigIP2 using this interface. You can change it. Failover, you can change the keep alive interfaces if you want. Connection mirroring, you can change also the interface that is used for connection mirroring. Let's test this connection mirroring. We have the nodes. Let's create the pool quickly for our application pool web application 1. Use HTTP round robin. Okay. Node list node 1 node 2. Let's use two nodes for time being, enough for testing. Click finish. Go to the virtual server. Click on virtual server, create a new VS web application 1, the destination IP 180 on port 80, and the pool is the one that we just created. Let me power up the virtual machines for server 1. Power up server 1. Server 2. You should see the pool green soon and the virtual server green soon. Let me quickly bring the testing client machine. Let's ping the virtual server. Yes, we can. Let's open the virtual server page, application page. Yep, refresh, server 1, server 2, server 1, server 2. Perfect. So let's go to big IB1. It is the active one. Let's say tmsh show sys connection. Show me connections on the client side server address 192.168.100.80, who is currently using our virtual server. There we go. We have two connections from our testing client to server 1. This one, I can click refresh to keep the connection from timing out. Now, if I go to big IB2, this is standby in sync, tmsh show sys connection client side server address 192.168.100.80. 0. 0. By default, the connections are not synchronized between both big IBs, which means if we have a failover event from big IB1 to big IB2, the client connection with the application will be disconnected and the client has to connect again. Now we are on server 1, the connection is already open, so we can interact. Let's go and do failover. Let's click on device, devices, big IB1, force standby. Okay. Now big IB1 is standby, big IB2 is active. Show me the connection table on big IB1, 0. Show me the connection table on big IB2, 0. No connections. So the client has to click refresh again to work on the application. And you see, because it's a new connection, the load balancing sent me to server 2, not even to server 1. So if I show connection now, it's going to server 2. Before the failover event, I was on server 1 when big IB1 was active. Let's go ahead now and configure the connection mirroring so that big IB, the active big IB device, will keep the connection table synchronized with the standby device. Let's go and do that. This configuration is on the virtual server level. So we go to our virtual server, click on the virtual server, select advanced, scroll down until you see the connection mirroring. Enable connection mirroring for this virtual server. Click update. Now let's go back to our testing machine. Let's open a connection with the virtual server, server 1, Control F5, refresh couple of times, Control F5. Let's go to the CLI of the big IB2, which is the active one. Show connection table. So we have two connections, connection to server 1, connection to server. It's actually two connection to server 1. If you Control F5, we should see now also connection to server 2. Yep, now the connection is to server 2. Let's go to the big IP one, show connection. There you go. The connection table now seems to be synchronized between big IB1 and big IB2. So this is what this checkbox means, that when you have connections established on the active big IB, you have to synchronize it to the standby big IB. The same also if you are using persistence, you by default persistence records are not synchronized. So when you are if you want them to be synchronized, when you are creating persistence, for example, source IP, you have to select mirror persistence. Click on this, click on this. So mirror persistence. We can test this quickly. Let's say finish. This is our profile. Let's go to the virtual server. Let's attach the persistence profile. Click update. Let's go to our client. Control F5. Now we are on server 1, and because there is persistence, we will stick to server 1. It will never change until 180 seconds of no activity. Then the persistence will time out. But now we're stuck to server 1. If we go to statistics, module statistics, local traffic, persistence records, we see that we have a persistence record on the active device. If we go to the standby device, statistics, module, local traffic, select persistence records, and you see them synchronized. So persistence records now synchronized between the primary and the standby because we configured the profile with this option. By default, it is not enabled. So this is all about active standby, config synchronization, connection synchronization, and persistence synchronization.